Tom Fitton joins us again. He's the president of Judicial Watch and the author of A Republic Under Assault. Tom, great to have you back with us, sir.
Vince, good to be with you. Thank you.
And Pam Bondi, in that last piece of audio that we played, she did the right thing, I think. She basically cut through the gaslighting that we saw the Democrats do today, saying that it was Trump who would weaponize the Justice Department.
Yeah, talk about, kind of guilt showing through. I mean, they're worried that President Trump and his appointees will do what the Biden administration and the deep state had done for 8 years, which is illicitly target Trump, not because of anything he specifically did, but because of who he is. And we can't have prosecutors target you just because they don't like your politics. And I'm sorry, when you talk about the weaponization of government, that means something illicit was going on. And thankfully, Pam Bondi, in her testimony, as best I could tell, refused to back down from a willingness to investigate what went on. It doesn't mean, we investigate Jack Smith because he was appointed by Biden. No, we investigate Jack Smith, not that she said this, but you investigate Jack Smith if there's evidence of misconduct in the handling of his investigation. And there are going to be cases where things are corrupt and immoral, like Biden's pardons, that are unlikely to be investigated at all because Biden has this powerful authority under the Constitution to issue pardons with not much in the way of second guessing. That's the distinction that's being made here. And, they never provided Trump any of the protections and deference afforded presidents while they were in office or even after they were in office. They made up new rules as they went along. And I don't want Pam Bondi to do that or anyone else who needs to investigate this. But the challenge for her is she needs to investigate the Justice Department. She needs to investigate the FBI. And, if I were Trump, I'd take it out of her hands and allow her to do what she wants to do full time and appoint a special counsel outside the agencies to investigate them. But, she did a stellar job in explaining, what the Justice Department is supposed to do and how accountability for the misconduct and lawfare against Trump is lawful and ethical to pursue. And frankly, she has an obligation to pursue strong evidence of criminal activity or misconduct by Justice Department employees and the FBI.
One of the things I appreciated about Pam Bondi's testimony today is that she didn't allow the Democrats at any point to really set the frame on any issue, including on questions about how the 2020 election was conducted. Democrats are always trying to find some way to scandalize each of these nominees. And they went after Pam Bondi for being a part of efforts to look closely at how the Pennsylvania election was conducted. And here's one moment, Dick Durbin going after Pam Bondi, and she just didn't back down. She just said it's totally right to scrutinize things exactly as they occurred.
He said to the Georgia Secretary of State, find 11,780 votes.
Do you have the entire context of that call? I feel like it was much longer than that and may have been taken out of context.
It was an hour long.
Right.
And you can certainly listen to it. I hope you will.
Yeah, so Pam Bondi being like, I'm not playing your game. You're taking everything out of context in order to make it a political attack.
There's a story and a narrative that the media and the left Democrats have accepted on all these issues. And Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth and John Ratcliffe today, who was the CIA director, just said, no, we're not accepting your premises. We are the middle. We're the moderates. Americans agree with us on these issues. There's nothing wrong with disputing elections. There's nothing wrong with raising questions about the immigration invasion. No, DEI is not good. It's a concern if there are different standards for men and women in the military. We're putting women at risk and our military mission at risk by putting them in positions they ought not to be. It's that type of common sense approach. Really, to the degree the cabinet officials mimicked Trump's approach to dealing with these folks, the more successful they were, as you saw with Pam Bondi.
Yeah, that's definitely right. It does seem to me that these first few nominees who are being considered are very likely to get the posts. They're all doing very well, whether it's Pam Bondi or John Ratcliffe or Pete Hegseth. The left is almost trying to keep their powder dry for guys like Kash Patel and RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. How do you assess, how these nominations are going, and what do you expect in the days ahead?
I think Hegseth deflated a lot of their efforts. If Hegseth gets through, and he will get through, I don't see anyone else who faces even more of a headway than Hegseth does, maybe RFK. The danger from the Democrat side is the willingness to delay nominations that otherwise would go forward and delay the ability of the president to have his team in place, especially in the national security area, on Inauguration Day. That's not typical in Washington, D.C. I mean, if Pete Hegseth is not defense secretary on Inauguration Day, or Pam Bondi isn't in place in the Justice Department, or just withholding it just for political purposes and delaying it as long as they could, in this day and age, we can't afford a day or two even with the agencies not being run by people that the president put up. Don't have the full authority to protect the nation, especially on national security.
Yeah, in fact, if I want to dwell on the FBI's role in all of this right now, the Biden-led FBI at the moment is tasked with conducting these routine background checks on these nominees, but apparently is either slow walking or they just haven't gotten the job done yet, which is creating trouble for Interior Department nominee Doug Burgum, Veteran Affairs nominee Doug Collins, Tulsi Gabbard to head Director of National Intelligence, RFK to run HHS. Do you suspect foul play by the Biden FBI in trying to slow these nominees down?
Yes, although I've heard it's as much about the Office of Government Ethics, which is run by a Biden appointee who was rammed through by the Schumer Senate after Election Day. And the OGE, my understanding is, has been slow-rolling records. And to me, this is further reason for good-thinking Republicans and honest Democrats to reform of the confirmation process. They don't need the Office of Government Ethics to vet these people.
No.
We don't need the FBI to vet these people. This is all discretionary activity by the Senate. Trump could nominate someone, or a president could nominate someone, and the Senate, if they wanted, could confirm the person the same day. Instead, they put them through this process that is designed to keep conservatives from applying to begin with. Pete Hegseth and people like Pam Bondi don't give a you-know-what about what the Democrats are going to do, but a lot of people do, and quite right. They're quite right to be concerned about having their reputations destroyed through this process. And I think there's got to be a reform of it. It doesn't help conservatives. Conservatives don't get more information. Liberal nominees aren't derailed. It's a vehicle to destroy conservative nominees from the president. And I think that we should get a better system in place.
I agree with you. Tom, one of the things I've noticed about these nominees is that they've been on the receiving end of the corruption, many of them have, of these institutions. And I think of people like Kash Patel, who had his private emails subpoenaed by the federal government. You think of Tulsi Gabbard, who was treated as an enemy of the state. She had air marshals following her around as if she was a terrorist. You've got basically pretty important RFK and how he's been treated by the United States government, censoring his communications around these important issues on health. These are all people who've experienced some of the worst instincts and impulses of the tyrannical federal government. It does strike me that it makes them almost even better to run these agencies if they know how those abuses can be used against the American people.
I mean, you described, in my view, a series of crimes. I mean, they're crime victims, and you're right. There can be no better group of people to run corrupt agencies than those who have been victimized by those agencies. And of course, the number one crime victim in the country is President Trump. And I think 2025, in addition to being a year for a lot of other things that need to be done in this town, there's got to be justice and accountability for what went on. And, I want the budget cut. I also want these agencies never to be able to do, again, what they did to Trump and other Americans. I mean, the FBI, they sent the FBI to my home to issue a subpoena to me.
Yes.
Knock, knock, knock. And you never get over that. And what we had to go through at Judicial Watch, when I had to go through dealing with that, sham politicized investigation, there's got to be justice. And of course, I was just a witness. Imagine if I were Kash Patel or President Trump, where they had raids in there, where Trump had a raid on his home. There's got to be accountability there. As far as I'm concerned, the Justice Department needs to be decimated in terms of its powers. And, I half jokingly say Kash Patel should be the last FBI director.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's a lot of big fights ahead. Tom Fitton, thank you for always staying in the fight. Really appreciate your time as always.